My name is Average Joe, and I'm a proud geek with expertise in movies, superheroes, and animation.
My name is Beef Pork Ribs. I'm a fine repository of esoteric knowledge, which I suppose most people would qualify as geeky. Though I dabble in many fandoms, my main areas of expertise are anime, movies, and Belgian comics, with a strong recent insurgency of D&D.
Our mission is to bring nerd and geek culture to the masses
by sticking it all under the microscope.
Welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast.
Movies, comics, graphic novels, TV, cartoons, animation, nerds are geeks, entertainment culture. Hear it on the Bat Jar, Nerdy Power. Nerds and geeks, come gather around the scene. Come and join us in the Bat Jar. Come and tune into Average Joe and his team. Lots of room here in the Bat Jar. When the newest nerdy news drops, these podcast pals put it under the scope. DC, Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, cinematic, multiverse. It's mega Christmas, strangest franchise. Hear it on the Bat Jar, Nerdy Power.
Hello there, and welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast, where we put nerd and geek culture under the microscope.
You know, for doing a recent movie, it'd be a lot better if it was Batman.
The Batman.
Is
that in response to your raspy voice today?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just can't line up the days we're both raspy. Like, we could have really done a grunge episode if it had been when I was sick and if you were sick then.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been great, not in the sense that we were both sick, but in the sense that it would have at least sounded uniform.
But are you okay? You're taking whatever medication you need to take to calm your poor throat?
Oh yeah, it's happening. It's just taking longer than I wish it would, and due to my asthma, it also means that I'm coughing a lot, even though I'm not sick anymore.
Well, that's always fun. I mean, it's been almost 3 weeks since I recovered from COVID-19, and I'm still coughing occasionally. And it's not so bad, except it really stymies my laughter. Like people know I'm known for like laughing really loudly, and I have like a capacity. It's like once I hit a certain length of laugh, I start coughing.
Right. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, mostly for the people around me who actually enjoy hearing me laugh. They're like, oh, dang, COVID laugh. Or COVID cough, rather. We have one doomsday that I want to talk about. Very sad. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, which was supposed to be coming out this October, is now coming out in June of 2023.
Oh. Making a summer flick?
Yeah, so it's been delayed like 8 months. It's now going to come out right before, assuming The Flash comes out when it's supposed to come out, this will come out a week before that.
Which may be a bit of a stretch, but yeah.
I mean, I'm disappointed.
The Flash coming out on time.
Well, Ezra Miller was arrested again in Hawaii. So
that bodes well.
Yeah, people are starting to talk again about like potentially replacing him in the movie, in which case, he's playing two different characters, so that would be a lot of extra money to bring everyone back and to, reshoot everything with a different person.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem worth it. But
that's where Michael Keaton Batman's hiding in that movie, so maybe they should just repurpose it as just a Michael Keaton Batman movie featuring the new Supergirl and just cut out all the Flash stuff.
Maybe.
But more importantly, yes, Across the Spider-Verse is delayed like 8 months. It doesn't seem like COVID is really the reason. It does sound like they just are delayed with the animation, and considering how intricate the animation is for those Spider-Verse movies, and how I've been told with the new one they're going to make every world they go to have a different animation style.
Fun times.
Yeah, so I can kind of see how they could run into delays, but 8 months, that seems like a long time to delay a movie.
But I feel like it might have been just like they had to delay it 1 or 2 months and then realize at that point, or maybe 3 months, and then realized like, well, let's make it a summer flick instead of a Halloween. I don't know. Maybe
I
they
do.
were gonna release it around Halloween and be all spooky with it.
I wonder if they're just trying to distance it from Morbius to detach it from like, make people like forget that it's being made by the same people.
I hope not, but that wouldn't be from what I've heard, the worst of ideas. I mean, to separate yourself from Morbius.
Yeah, I do wonder though, because when the first Spider-Verse came out in December 2018, it didn't actually do all that well financially. Like it wasn't a huge box office hit. It was more of a critical darling. So moving the second one into, right into the middle of the summer movie season, they must feel really confident that the first one has such great word of mouth that more people will come and see the second one.
Yeah, I mean, they've also got an Oscar for it, which tends to help with the publicity as well.
That's true. But this is a good segue into today's topic because we're talking about movies being delayed and the second one doing better than the first one at the box office. We are indeed today talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Baby!
The first Sonic the Hedgehog movie was the first film that we reviewed together on the Bat Jar. It was the first time Mjolnir made an appearance on the podcast. And it was really the one, I would say, the last major release that we both saw before COVID-19 shut down movie theaters.
Is that the first time you met Mjolnir as well?
No, I think I remember going over to your place watching Doctor Who before that.
Before the episode on Sonic? Before we went to see Sonic?
Before the episode on Sonic.
Were you not there when we went to see Sonic?
No, I think I saw it by myself, actually.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I just remember because a bunch of friends had gotten together because Pixel Patch was there and a few other people. And I thought you were there as well, but I guess not.
No, I was doing Exodus 90 at the time, and so I wasn't actually supposed to watch movies, but I asked my fraternity if we could have watching a movie be our Sunday treat that week, and so I used it to go see Sonic. And I'm glad I ended up doing that because it was one of the last times I went to a movie theater before everything shut down.
Yeah, and it's, fun. It was a fun movie.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when we did that episode, I was very critical of the story of the film. I was like, oh, it's just another road trip movie, and it's another one of these fantasy characters in a fish out of water setting, and it's ripping on people who want to leave small towns. I think I compared it to Hallmark movies a bit.
Oh, yeah, you did. I remember that.
But having not really watched it in its entirety since it came out originally, I think I've come to realize like it is a film kind of, meant to entertain all audiences, including children, and perhaps I was being too critical of it.
Perhaps. But I mean, it was still like, I think we praised it, but I think originally our major praise was, hey, this is a video game movie that didn't suck. Kind of like similar to when we did Detective Pikachu. We're like, this is one of the best Pokemon movies. Okay, well, is it really that good? And then we discussed that,
So would you say your opinion of the original has improved since, it came out originally, or has it kind of soured a bit?
I think it's remained pretty even keel. I still enjoy it. I think that maybe gotten a little bit better because, I don't know, I revisited kind of Sonic as a character and as a franchise and realized, why did they not try this earlier? Like, really, the Sonic franchise is a lot better adapted to be adapted, if that makes sense. Like, it's a lot more, it's got a lot more content and a lot more things that could be much more easily adapted into a movie than a lot of other video games that have kind of tried. So I was kind of like, I think the movie itself didn't necessarily become more of a darling for me, but the idea of the Sonic universe being in movie is something I was, I got more excited with. especially with, Knuckles showing up for the second movie and the Chaos Emerald existing and seemingly actually having the ridiculous amount of power that the lore gives them in the games.
When this movie came out 3 weeks ago now, it got a 67% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 96% from audiences. Does that at all surprise you?
Before we go any further, I have to modulate. I did not manage to get it seen because of the con this weekend. But generally, I would have expected the fan response to probably be higher for it because, I don't know, just from the previews, there seems to be a lot of fan service in that movie, especially around kind of Robotnik and the Chaos Emeralds. And it looked like the kind of movie that would be fun, but not necessarily highbrow fun. Although I am surprised the critics were that low because the first one was a solid movie. Like, it had its fault, but it was pretty solid. So I don't know. This might be a departure from that a little bit.
I could tell from the trailers, the marketing, that this was really going to try and address the lack of fan service that the original movie didn't have. And I've never played a Sonic video game. I have very little connection to the Sonic universe, but just hearing other people talk about it and even just some of the visuals, I'm like, okay, that looks like things I've seen before. It seemed like they were really going out of their way to appealing to fans who grew up with Sonic, but then also trying to make it something that kids could enjoy.
Yeah, and I think they could get away with it a little bit more because they kind of didn't do it originally, if that makes sense. Like, they didn't really make as big a deal out of the Sonic lore in the original one, so that they could kind of, I think, throw in more Easter eggs into it than they had originally, if that kind of makes sense. But I also think it was a smart move because, video game movies usually have to present more than just the video game in order to work, and they kind of got the legwork done in the first one to present it. So I don't know if the story suffered that much as a result, but I think it's, I don't know, I'm glad they did some of it at least. Even just like getting Dr. Robotnik to look a lot more like, getting Jim Carrey to look like the Dr. Eggman, I think was just something I personally enjoyed.
Now, this movie, when it opened, it had the largest box office take for a video game movie ever, surpassing the record that the previous Sonic movie had, I believe, for highest opening weekend for a video game movie. It made $72 million its opening weekend. And after 3 weeks, it has pretty much matched the total gross of the Uncharted movie, around 145 million. So Uncharted's been out now for 2 months. It came out mid-February. And yeah, after 3 weeks, Sonic has made just as much as it. And I'm speaking in terms of North America here.
I don't see Uncharted doing very well in other markets though, and I can see Sonic doing a little bit better, so I'm not overly surprised. But that is, like, I'm not surprised it's doing better than Uncharted. I'm a little bit surprised it managed to hit that kind of height, especially as, like we just said, it's gone a little bit more the video game side of things than the previous one had.
Yeah, like there's even one poster for Sonic 2 where there's like a large Jim Carrey kind of like grabbing the number 2, and you see Sonic and Tails on the bottom, and it's like almost a direct recreation of one of the video game box arts. And I'm like, clearly the people making this, even in the marketing department, are fans of this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with having fans of the franchise in charge of something, right? I think as long as they don't, I guess, not run away with it, but like overcommit to the inside jokes, which I don't think really was a problem.
Now, if I heard you right, you said you didn't actually get to see the film.
No, there was a con this weekend. The plan was to go on Saturday, and then there was a con. So Saturday we were showing off little Jam Jam as baby Cruella.
Aw, so something good came from the movie Cruella.
No, this was original Cruella cosplay.
Oh.
Although, no, the other Cruella we found at the con who took a picture with her was also original Cruella.
All right, then ask me for the Blu-ray case description.
All right. Average Joe, give us the Blu-ray case description of Sonic 2.
Do you remember that Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out 2 years ago? Well, you know, it had lots of human characters interacting with just one CG character in the form of Sonic. And now there's more of them. There's a red echidna with boxing glove hands and a cute little yellow fox with twin tails. So what we have here now is a movie where Sonic has to defeat Dr. Robotnik, who has come back from his exile on the Mushroom Planet, while at the same time, all the human characters are basically kind of shoved into a side plot that leads me to ask a question of why is this even a live action film anymore? And I do want to start with that question because, you know, the first movie, it's mostly Sonic the Hedgehog is a CG character. And for the most part, the environments in which he interacts with are live action. And then you get to the end and there's Jim Carrey robots and stuff. So like there's CG things for him to fight. But this one, when you add in two other CG characters as the main cast, and there's this whole adventure involving looking for this Master Emerald, and they go to these locations that are clearly CG environments, it really honestly begs the question, like James Marsden and all those characters you saw in the first film, they are mostly relegated to this side plot involving a wedding that I think only comes into play so that they have like time where they're not paying to have, you know, computer animated characters on screen.
Oh, that's kind of unfortunate. But at the same time, I don't know. It's again, it is one of those nice things to have like a good Sonic movie, and you still get Jim Carrey, you know, as Robotnik, having fun, clearly, still.
Yeah, but there, you know, if you watch the movie, yeah, he's mugging it up and he's hamming it up, but you can kind of tell that he's like, it sort of feels like he's putting on a one-man show as if like he's acting against nothing.
Oh, I see.
Because he's like the one like live
More
action.
so than Jim Carrey already does.
Yeah, so he's like the one live action human character that's kind of involved in the main plot of the movie. The rest of the human cast, like I said, are kind of off to the side. So yeah, there's scenes where Dr. Robotnik, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are all in the same scene, but then Jim Carrey's the only like live action character. And there's moments that are clearly meant to evoke the video games where they're in some kind of dungeon maze or they're like on a mountain, like snowboarding. But it seems like it's mostly computer generated environments made to look like live action. So I bring up this question. It's like, if the main characters are going to be CG and you're going to have to do CG animation for a lot of the environments anyway, wouldn't it be better if we just had an animated movie where Jim Carrey was the voice of Dr. Robotnik?
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of Jim Carrey being the only... Look, I really appreciate his performance. Like, maybe you could probably make a pretty strong argument that he could have just been in a mocap. But I personally think it's cool to still have him. And again, we were talking about like, is this kind of like in the spirit of the original Sonic games? And very much so. Like, Dr. Eggman is pretty much the only human in the games, right? It's like, I thought personally when I heard about that, him being pretty much the only human, I thought that was a great way to do things because I thought it was just hilarious and just, yeah, for some incomprehensible reason, Dr. Robotnik is the only human in this world full of superpowered animals, and he kind of just messes stuff up. And I don't know, I like that concept, but I do understand the question. But okay, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, it wasn't CG, but it was mostly filmed on like practical effect stage. Like, if you have the budget, if you have the know-how, why not do it?
I suppose, but those are shows where a lot of the characters are still actually like characters, like they're actually actors on the set. Like I'm thinking of like when they do Sonic the Hedgehog 3, you know, if they introduce an Amy or whatever that Batwoman character is, then you're gonna have like 4 main characters that are all. And I guess I'm you know, we've lived through this
Where
world
does it end?
well, it's like I'm thinking of like, yeah, like the Smurfs or the Chipmunks movies or Transformers or the
Those
Michael
are
Bay
not good things to
Ninja
think about.
Turtles, where the actual characters that are in the title are often sidelined in service to the human characters because, you know, they're actual billable stars and they're actual people. So again, like they try to incorporate James Marsden and I think her name's Tika Sumter, like the married couple from the first film, into the story, and
Yeah.
I can see what they're doing. You know, they're making this movie for families. They're trying to give Sonic a family on Earth. Like these two are kind of serving the parent roles.
You're basically saying, I see what they were trying to do, but it didn't work.
It didn't work for me.
Fair enough.
Like, to me, it's like if this film had just been animated and if they had cut the wedding subplot out, it would have.
You wouldn't care.
Yeah, it would have made
It would
for
still be the same movie.
It would have been a better movie, I think, because then they could have included more characters that from the Sonic world that would necessarily have been included in this movie otherwise.
Right.
Like, you know, you watch a TV show and they have like the A plot and the B plot. So like the main storyline of the episode, and then it'll often cut to like what other characters are doing
Yeah.
in a seemingly unrelated thing. That's kind of what this movie feels like, is that, you know, if you remember, I can't remember her character's name, but Tika Sumter's character, she has a sister who does not like James Marsden from the first film, if you remember that.
Right. Yeah.
So in this one, she's getting married and there are weddings in Hawaii. So there's this, you know, whole thing involving them going off to this wedding and Sonic's left home alone. And then he has his own little, you know, party with himself. And then that's when Robotnik and Knuckles show up. And then that story kind of kicks off. And it's only really towards the end that the two plots kind of converge with each other.
Which is funny because that was like in all the trailers.
The wedding?
Yeah. Like from what I understand, where the plots combine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shot that's in the trailer of, you know, them throwing a portal ring, and all of a sudden all the snow comes in from like where they were in their action scene into Hawaii.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey has said in some interviews recently that he's maybe retiring from film. And he didn't say anything definitive. He just said, yeah, I might retire soon. So there is a hypothetical possibility wherein this is his final performance.
Oh, good Lord.
And to that I say, you know, he's very entertaining in the film. Some of the things his character does are a little dated, and like he does some flossing at one point, and I'm like, I feel like that hasn't been popular in like 5 years.
Yeah, but I mean, you think he'd still be going out on a high note, though?
I think it's high enough. Like, again,
Okay.
you do get this odd feeling that he is just kind of doing like a one-man show on stage. Like, I don't know if I'm ever... It's convincing enough for kids, but I don't know if I was at, like, there were definitely moments where I'm like, okay, yeah, he's definitely like putting in extra effort because there's no one there for him to like bounce off of.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can see that being a problem.
And I do agree with you. I think it adds to the comedy that he looked more like the character from the games. Like he had the huge mustache, he had the shaved head. But my goodness, he has the goggles on his forehead for most of the thing, and it's like, dude, like, what's the point of having those goggles if they're just sitting on your forehead? Like, put them on. Like, we don't need to see your eyes. He looks convincing as the character without them on, but it's like you'd certainly look more like the character when you're actually wearing them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really judge specifically, but also I feel like it would be less jarring to have it be full CG than like The Lion King was. So, maybe they will, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that is the next step in the evolution, is to acknowledge that video game movies should be CG. And like, I don't know, like you talked about the other, movies where the main characters kind of get sidelined, and I don't know, I didn't really enjoy a lot of that aspect of it. I mean, I hate all the Smurf movies, but that's a different category of things. But like, it is a tough balance to strike. Like, as far as I can think of, I think only like a handful of movie, and mostly like Muppet movies, have managed to strike that balance properly. So, I can understand why they did it, and why they keep trying to do it, because you still want to have, your big names, and not just in voices and your big appeal. But I don't know, I'm not against the idea of it eventually just becoming full CG. And like I said, to me, it's a very Sonic thing to have almost only Robotnik as a human character.
So you would be okay if the movie was animated, except for like a live action Jim Carrey in the mix?
Yeah, I would be okay with that. Absolutely, 100%.
That would certainly make it unique. Like, there aren't really any movies like that where there's just a random live action character.
Yeah, or even if it was like a motion captured Jim Carrey, But I think you would have to have it be motion capture, because I don't think, like, yeah, him voicing Robotnik, I don't think would be enough.
There are a ton of video game Easter eggs in here that I didn't really notice at all while I was watching. There was one. The one I did notice is that at one point a character is reading a manual for how to operate a giant robot, and it's clearly modeled after like a Sega Genesis instruction manual.
Okay.
But like James Marsden's character, Jason Marsden's a voice actor. His ringtone is the original Sonic music at one point.
Nice.
There's a helicopter that lands that has like SA2 written on it, which is like Sonic Adventure 2. Like, there's all, it's honestly at the level of Marvel movies in terms of the deep cut Easter eggs that are there for fans of the games to appreciate, and me to like learn about in YouTube videos after the fact.
But I think that's also a good thing. Like, it's, showing that look, now it's the highest grossing video game. They can start, throwing in fan service and still make quality movies. That's kind of the sweet spot you want, right? And I don't know, from what you've described, it sounds like it's less like jarring, look, here's an Easter egg, and more like just hidden in, right? Which I think is also a good thing, because you used to have it in superhero movies where like you're talking about Marvel movies, like there used to be some things where like, this is clearly has to be an Easter egg, even if you didn't know what it was about. And I feel like if you can hit that sweet spot where there's mostly inoffensive, or most of the things you're not exactly sure, then that's kind of perfect.
Yeah, like one, I guess I would say subtle Easter egg is at one point Sonic gets punched by Knuckles, and he like, tumbles and falls, and then his bag with all his rings in it falls out of his pocket, and so like all these rings kind of fly away from Sonic.
Oh, that's nice. That's, yeah. I mean, is it subtle? Anybody who's ever played a Sonic game knows exactly that's what that's a reference to, but still.
Well, no, I didn't know that. I just thought, oh no, he's lost all his teleporting rings.
That's never made it to you in the general like gestalt of or general consciousness that when you get hit by an enemy in Sonic, you lose your rings?
No, I did know that that the rings in the game have a different purpose than they do in the movies, and that you do collect them in the game.
Okay. Yeah, they're your health. Well, they're kind of your health. Like, if you get hit by something and you have one ring, it'll fly off, and then you can catch that one ring, and then you're still okay as long as you have at least one, right? But if you have a lot on you, it's easier to catch them because they don't disappear immediately when you lose them.
There's a YouTuber I follow. His channel is called Black Nerd Comedy. And he made the suggestion that this new film is a combination of all the various Sonic animated shows that have been made, because there are parts of it that go to like the fart joke level, kind of just goofiness of the one Sonic cartoon from the 90s. And then there's moments that like have a more serialized storyline that seems more like the other Sonic the Hedgehog show from the 90s that was like a post-apocalyptic future. And then
Right.
some of the nuances of Sonic interacting with the real world and the lore from the games being brought in kind of reminded him of Sonic X as well.
Okay. I mean, did he not include, was it Super Mario Bros. Z in there?
He did not know.
I guess Metal Sonic hasn't showed up yet. It was a YouTube show that was like, it was an animated show that made on YouTube where they took like sprites from Super Mario Bros. Games and Sonic games and had a whole like Dragon Ball Z style adventure happening. It was amazing, like really great animation and really fun, and also revolved mostly around the Chaos Emerald as the kind of like MacGuffin for it.
So as I mentioned before, this film introduces two new characters, Tails and Knuckles, both of whom I, had familiarity with from other Sonic properties.
Yeah.
But coming into this, in things I saw on social media, and critics were both saying that Knuckles was a standout in the movie. Here he's voiced by Idris Elba, which, he's a pretty funny actor when he's doing a comedy. He basically is characterized, people have pointed this out, he's basically characterized like Drax from the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Like he's this warrior type who like takes everything literally and doesn't understand any kind of jargon or pop culture references.
I mean, I feel like that's one of the two main takes. Like, usually Knuckles is either like the complete straight lace or constantly making fun of Sonic. But he is very much like a Lancer character, and it's, it's, I think it's a good thing. And also, like, there's a reason he's the fan favorite. Like, I think there might be more fans of Knuckles than fans of Sonic out there. I could be wrong, but like he's got that very Vegeta vibe where like everybody likes him better than the main character. And I mean, I feel like it's pretty common for Lancer characters to kind of have that status. But yeah, I think Idris Elba, especially if you're playing him as the straight man, is a great choice for it. And like, I don't know, it's also nice to throw in somebody who can compete with Sonic, because I think that was almost the problem with the first movie, is like, even when Dr. Robotnik was using the whatever equivalent of the Speed Force is in these movies, he still wasn't really keeping up with Sonic.
Yeah. And before this movie even came out, Paramount had greenlit a Knuckles spinoff for Paramount Plus. So they clearly knew that Knuckles would be received well. And yeah, he was definitely a highlight of the movie. I think it was also just the deadpan nature of his dialogue kind of got me laughing a fair bit.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's because I feel like if there's one thing that fans would not forgive is if Knuckles was kind of messed up. I feel like if they messed up Tails completely, they could still get away with it, but Knuckles needs to kind of be there.
Now, I'll give them some props here, because Tails is voiced by Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who has played Tails before in some of the Sonic video games and I think the Sonic Boom animated show. Very shocking that they would actually have the voice actor who had previously played the part reprise it for the big movie. For people my age, Colleen O'Shaughnessy is a voice actor who's been working for a long time, and she was probably most famous for playing Sora in the English dub of the original Digimon show.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I like that a lot. Especially because, like, I don't know, voice actors don't get enough credit for what they do, especially when, like, I don't know, do we ever do an episode on that? But like celebrity voice actors, like actors who do voice acting, because
we've talked about it, but it's certainly
Yeah.
never been a whole episode.
could be something to talk about at some point. But like, you know, because there are some actors who are good voice actors, but it's not because they're good actors, right? It's because they also have the skill. Like, obviously, there's a lot of like overlap, but you do have some actors that are just kind of really bad voice actors, and it shows in a lot of things. And so constantly having, you know, big name actors do voices doesn't always work out. And so it's nice to see voice actors get get recognition as voice actors, especially in like a bigger movie.
Yeah, and Tails in this movie, he comes across more like a younger brother than like the kind of annoying sidekick that I remembered him from the 90s show, which I was thankful for. It was also kind of interesting seeing like the origins of their relationship, because every other version of Sonic that I've seen, it kind of already starts with them knowing each other and them already having an established dynamic.
Yeah,
So
they're already like best friends from childhood or something.
yeah, and so it's interesting in this setting where it's like Sonic knows very little about the conflict in the world because he's kind of lived on Earth in isolation, and then he's got these other people coming in being like kind of bringing him up to speed on what he has missed out on. So Tails does a good job of being like an informant, and then you know there's this whole lesson about family and friendship, and of course, and Tails has a big part in that. Yeah,
And I think I do again think it's nice that they waited until the second movie to throw in the lore, because like I don't know how close or accurate to the video games it is, but like the lore of Sonic is a little bit weird. Like, the Chaos Emeralds are extremely powerful artifacts that they kind of just like keep for fun, or because they don't like, you know, it's got that thing where like the main characters are good guys, so they never think of doing something terrible, so they can be trusted with artifacts that have like almost limitless power. But then as soon as somebody evil finds out about it, they're like crazy aggressively trying to take control of them, right? And I think that probably would have been too much to throw in at the beginning of something. But I definitely feel like, you know, it's nice to have it in, and hopefully it'll also be a little bit in the like Knuckles show, because I feel like that would also kind of add to the not just the fun of it, but also the scope of the world. And I think that's also something, like there were hints at the scope of the world in the first movie when you were talking about like when you got Sonic's backstory and how he was running away and why. But like busting it open seems like a lot of fun, and also something that can, you know, really bring a larger conflict and, you know, elevate other characters like Dr. Robotnik to like kind of get to that level where he's not just like a crazy guy, because in the first movie he's pretty much just a crazy guy with some good gadgets, but you know, it elevates him to like a real threat level where people other than just the main characters would need to be worried about him.
so let's just jump into the spoiler verse here. If you don't want any spoilers for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, jump ahead. There'll be a time code in the description where you can avoid this. So you mentioned the Chaos Emeralds. The Master Emerald is the form they take for most of the movie. And then during the big climax, the Master Emerald breaks apart. And wouldn't you know it, there's 6 smaller ones. And wouldn't you know it, they all spin around Sonic. And wouldn't you know it,
He goes Super Saiyan.
he goes Super Saiyan, and I know Supersonic is a thing from Smash Bros, but man, it's like once you see it on screen, you're like, yeah, this is very much a Super Saiyan kind of ripoff.
But I think it was originally entirely supposed to be, like, because again, like that Super Mario Bros. Z, like they literally they use the Chaos Emeralds basically as Dragon Ball equivalents, and when you grab them, yeah, you go Super Saiyan, and I think that was, but I do think like because Sonic has always had a lot of like pop culture at the time things were released as part of it, so I'm pretty sure originally Supersonic was a Super Saiyan like homage to not say ripoff, and that it kind of was always the point. And I think there are things like that. If you do it in a fun and loving way, then it doesn't really matter that it's a ripoff of something. Like, I don't know if you've ever read or watched Beelzebub. Well, you'd have to read it to know this, but at some point, like, the main character straight up says, "I've gone Super Saiyan," and in universe, people are like, "Oh, are we allowed to say that? Is it copyrighted?" But it's just, I don't know, funny.
Right. It was a really cool scene, and it was a really cool way to end the action climax. And throughout the whole movie, Knuckles is trying to get a gauge on who he can trust, and seeing Sonic kind of abandon like the ultimate power for the sake of wanting to have a normal life and just protect the emeralds instead was like kind of like the final thing that Knuckle needed to see in order for them to just become buddies.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, because that is a pretty common thing too. Is that Knuckles never thinks that Sonic is responsible enough, and so no, I like that. I like that they actually did that. Again, not super original, but you don't always have to be the most original thing to have a good story.
Right. Speaking of the story, like I said, like it really felt like they were trying to shoehorn all the human characters into the movie. Do you remember like the deputy sheriff guy from the first movie? They could have cut him out. Like he's in a couple scenes, and his presence really amounts to nothing. I would even say the same for like Agent Stone, like Robotnik's like sidekick from the first movie. Like he comes back.
That's unfortunate. They had really, I don't know. They had really good chemistry though.
They did, but it's like Knuckles kind of serves the purpose of the wingman for Robotnik more in the movie than Stone does, and it's just it's like going forward.
Well, maybe in the third one, since he no longer has an echidna to do everything, he'll go back to him.
Yeah, I guess. Or let's have him build some robot characters he can have around,
so that in the third movie it can be a fully CG movie with Jim Carrey running around.
Yeah, I'd go for that. So okay, the wedding subplot. It turns out once Sonic and Tails show up, it turns out the whole wedding was a setup. That there was this government organization that was set up to track extraterrestrial activity after the events of the first Sonic movie, and that the woman or the man that the sister is marrying is an agent for this thing, and that this whole relationship, this whole wedding, was a set to try and like catch Sonic and other alien threats.
Oh wow, that's also, it's not quite as shoehorned if it becomes kind of plot relevant. Question mark.
Well, what it does is like, they knock Sonic and Tails out, and so like they're captured and they're like being held captive. So like the two women have to then essentially break into where they're being held using like Tails' gadgets. And so it allows her like, a good 10-15 minutes of the movie where you don't have to have any CGI characters on the screen. Like it was definitely a way for them to save money.
Is it just me, or does that kind of sound like the original Transformers movie?
It exactly is in the vein of that.
Mm.
And this is what I mean. It's like, okay, you're trying to save the budget by having like writing reasons for these human characters to do something, but also to not have your CG characters on screen. So let's just cut out the middleman and just move to an animated movie.
Yeah, I guess that's I can understand that. And yeah.
I will say,
I think what I'm getting out of this entire discussion so far is Jim Carrey should be the only human character in the movie.
yeah, because even James Marsden's character, I feel like he's served his purpose. He's kind of helped indoctrinate Sonic into the human world, let him know that, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, like, you know, kind of be his Uncle Ben figure. And again, the way the movie ends, they really try to establish them as a family.
We should just kill him off now that he's fulfilled that purpose, right?
Yeah, that really
It's
should.
all Uncle Ben figures are good for.
Like the final scene of the movie, it's actually very cute because you might remember in the first film, there's a scene where Sonic plays baseball with himself because he has no friends.
Okay.
The movie ends with the two parents, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, all going to a baseball diamond and playing baseball with each other.
Oh, that's cute. Knuckles doesn't know how to play baseball.
No, yeah, and there's a couple jokes about him not understanding the rules of baseball.
Oh, because they're... Anyways, let's not get into that.
So that's a good callback, and it sort of shows the progression of the character that he has his friends now. And to me, that kind of... They were trying to say, oh, now they have a family, like with more kids, basically. But I think what it should have been is like, okay, Sonic's not alone anymore. He has people around that are like him. So you two can go off on your own little adventure and let us do our own thing. But, you know, if this franchise is to continue as it is, you got to keep the human actors involved.
Did you really want... Because here's the thing. The most stereotypical way to do that is just to add the pregnancy subplot. And did we really want that?
Honestly, if it gets them out of the movie...
Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaur. Is that what you're telling me?
I haven't seen that, so I actually don't know.
Okay, never mind.
And then finally, there is a mid-credit scene where they reveal in a tube in a government lab somewhere a black hedgehog.
Oh, okay. Shadow is showing up.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I know who Shadow the Hedgehog is because I've seen him and I've seen him before. Is he like a clone or what's his deal?
I think his backstory changes.
Okay, so they have freedom to mix it up.
Yeah, they can have fun with him. Because I think he's been as I recall, he has been a clone and an alternate universe Sonic. And possibly something else. Before
we jump out of the spoilerverse, do you have any spoilery questions for me about the spoilery parts of the movie?
Can Knuckles climb things?
There is a part where he has to he has to kind of climb a mountain because he's fallen off. So he's like punching his hands into the rock wall.
Awesome.
And he asks
I don't know. I think that was about it.
He asks for grapes at one point. I don't know if that's a reference to something.
Not that I can recall, but then again, if you count the TV shows and the games and the comics, there is a lot of Sonic lore out there. Is there a Japanese judoka that shows up at some point?
I don't know what a judoka is.
A guy who practices judo. Basically a guy in a gi and a black belt.
Oh, no.
Okay. That was a deep cut reference. If somebody gets it, send us mail to let us know you know who that is.
So coming around to final thoughts, I really enjoyed watching Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I think it does a good job of making the game lore accessible to people like me who haven't played it. And it's clearly, again, I can clearly tell this is meant for children and families, but I was still able to enjoy it. I do question, though, continuing this as a live action film series when so much of the main setting and the main characters are becoming computer animated characters. So if I were in charge, which I'm not, I would probably make the move to this being an animated film in the future. So for now, I'll give Sonic the Hedgehog 2 3.4 out of 4 bat cookies.
Well, being as I haven't seen it yet, I'm going to preemptively give it a 3.5 because I feel like as a bigger Sonic fan than you, I will enjoy it a tiny bit more.
If you want to reach the show, you can send us an email at
batjarpodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can tweet us at
the Bat Cookie Jar.
You can find the Bat Jar Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, because we got a channel. Share our posts on Facebook, write reviews, give our shows a rating. This will help all people join us inside the Bat Jar, and we appreciate it dearly.
So as we look ahead to the next couple weeks here, the next MCU movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, is coming out on May the 6th, which is in 2 weeks. And the first Doctor Strange film was actually the first MCU movie to be released during the time that our podcast existed.
Oh.
Our podcast started like 5 weeks, I think, before the first Doctor Strange came out in fall of 2016. And I don't think I've actually watched that movie once since I saw it in theaters. So I thought it might be a good idea in preparing for the new Doctor Strange, maybe to do like what were we thinking episode on the original Doctor Strange movie.
Okay. I can deal with that. All I have to do is find the Doctor Strange episode and listen to it.
Or just rewatch the movie, whatever you prefer.
Okay. I might do both. I might do just one. Asian John was still the
Well, yeah, it was just the very beginning of the show.
yeah.
I think it was the first appearance of our guest Anonymous, who sadly hasn't been on the show in like 4 or 5 years now. But he in the early days, he made a lot of guest appearances.
Okay.
I think in that same episode, we actually also tried to ask the question if Ruby was an anime or not.
Oh, all right. Because you used to have like 1 or 2 themes per episode.
Yeah, we tried to tackle too much.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, come back to the Batjar podcast next week when we ask ourselves the question, what were we thinking when we reviewed the original Doctor Strange? And until that time, I'm Average Joe.
And before Cribs.
Catch you on the flip side.
I am vengeance.